What happened when emergency crews arrived at his apartment?
They could see inside that there was a male that was lying on the ground.
There was a lot of blood everywhere. He had very serious visible injuries.
Please tell me what they just said is not real.
Scott Martinez was a man who we came to find out led a few different lives.
He wasn't very cooperative with the police when they spoke with him.
Did you think that DNA was going to be the key to solving this case?
I did. This case had very clear DNA evidence of someone's blood at the scene.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to La Mesa, California, just 9 miles from downtown San Diego. The city was the backdrop for a puzzling murder mystery with a list of suspects straight out of a Hollywood film. It was June 17th, just after 3:30 in the morning, when police got a panicked call from a woman named Karen Stacy. She said she hadn't been able to get in touch with her fiancé, Scott Martinez, and thought he might be having a medical emergency.
She was concerned about him, that he may have some health issues like heart trouble, something like that he might not be feeling well, and wanted the police or fire department to check his welfare.
When first responders arrived, the door to Scott's second-floor apartment was locked and no one was answering.
So they used a ladder to be able to get to a window to try to peek into the apartment. And when they did, they could see inside that there was a male that was lying on the ground, and they thought that he did need medical aid.
Emergency crews broke down the door and rushed inside, not fully prepared for what they were about to see. Scott Martinez was lying on the floor dead, but it wasn't because of a medical episode. He'd been the victim of a brutal homicide.
They saw a very gory scene. There was a lot of blood everywhere. He had very serious visible injuries, and he had been eviscerated. Some of his organs were visible.
It didn't take long to figure out what caused those massive injuries. Laying on the floor above Scott's head was a bloody bent sword from Scott's own collection.
The person that lived there appeared to be a collector of sharp-edged weapons. They were some that were hung on the walls, some that were in display cases. Just generally a lot of knives and swords around.
Scott had been stabbed more than 30 times by the sword-wielding attacker. He had tried to fight back, but didn't stand a chance. Even though the fight appeared to have started and ended right there in the living room, as police searched the rest of the apartment, they discovered blood droplets in the bathroom.
We found evidence of blood in the bathroom, in the sink, as well as on some used tissue paper.
Police were convinced it had to have come from Scott's killer.
And they also found some bloody toilet paper. It looked like it had been used as an impromptu bandage for the suspect that survived the attack against Martinez.
So believing that, did you think the person had cut themselves during the murder?
Absolutely. So this is extremely common with multiple stab wounds. It's very common for the suspect to injure themselves. You know, the scene is very bloody. In particular, that can get on the weapon that's used. The suspect's hand can slide onto the blade itself.
That theory was strengthened when detectives went inside Scott's bedroom and found the killer's likely escape route.
The window was open. We located some blood on the windowsill. This was a second-story window. Outside on the ground beneath the window, we found another piece of tissue paper with blood on it.
It looked like the suspect, while bandaging himself in the bathroom, had jumped out a second-floor window, and more of that toilet paper was found on the ground level outside the apartment.
Investigators were pretty sure they knew how the killer left Scott's apartment, but they still didn't know how that person got in. The front door was locked when emergency crews arrived.
There were no signs of forced entry, and that tells us that the suspect that attacked the victim either had access to the apartment themselves or was allowed inside by the victim.
And the nature of the way Scott was murdered also told investigators that the crime was deeply personal.
It was very violent. Scott Martinez had been stabbed over 30 times.
It usually is something that's very filled with rage, It's emotional, and oftentimes we will find that the person that committed the attack is somebody that was known to the victim.
Detectives now had some difficult questions to answer. Who had killed the 47-year-old father, and why? As the investigation into the murder of Scott Martinez got underway, those closest to him were learning the devastating news.
I woke up to my mom and my best friend on my boyfriend's porch telling me he was gone.
Angelina panicked. Scott's oldest daughter was just 25 years old. What was your reaction when you heard your father had been murdered?
I physically collapsed, passed out. They got my boyfriend out of bed. I came to in his arms, and I was just like, please tell me what they just said is not real.
Even though her parents had divorced when she was a toddler, she had remained extremely close with her father.
We had the best connection. He was my best friend. I could even go to him with girl problems. He would take me to the gynecologist. Like, he just was that dad. Very protective, always gave the best advice. I couldn't have asked for a better father. We, every Monday, would meet up at our same pub that we like to hang out at and have a steak dinner and watch Monday Night Football. That was like one of our big things, and we did that for years. It was just our way to just like hang out, have a bite to eat, and, you know, kind of conversate about how the week's going. He was supposed to meet up with me because he always paid my cell phone bill, and he didn't show up. At Peter D's, which is where we have our steak dinners, I messaged him and called him numerous times, like, where are you? And he never showed up. And that's because he was dead.
And Scott had another daughter who was only 4 at the time of the divorce. Detectives promised both of them that they would do everything they could to find his killer. They hoped the blood evidence at the scene would lead them straight to that person.
We collected the blood evidence, and we did submit it to the crime lab as well as to CODIS, which is the database of known blood samples. All we were able to learn was that it belonged to a male, and that particular DNA was not in the database, so we did not know who it belonged to.
Investigators were disappointed they didn't get an instant match, but they knew the DNA was still valuable evidence. It would allow them to rule out any potential suspects. Detectives sat down to create a list of who to ask for a comparison sample. They soon learned Scott's lifestyle was going to make the investigation difficult.
Scott Martinez was a man who we came to find out led a few different lives. In one respect, he was a family man. He was engaged, had a fiance. He also was a prolific gambler at local casinos here in San Diego. He had a lot going on, and that was difficult for us to find a starting point to locate a suspect because he did a very good job of keeping these various activities separate.
Police turned to his fiancée, Karen, for help. She said she last saw Scott leaving her home around midnight, a few hours before he was discovered murdered. He told her he wasn't feeling well and would call when he arrived home, but never did.
She was just concerned for his welfare because he wasn't answering the phone.
Karen's story helped detectives narrow the timeline of Scott's murder, and investigators caught a break when a neighbor said he saw 2 people outside Scott's apartment around 1:30 a.m.
They ran into a couple, a man and a woman, in the driveway of the apartment complex that they didn't know, and saw them get into a vehicle, which was described as an older Volkswagen Beetle, and leave the scene.
Investigators went back to Scott's fiancée to ask her if she knew anyone who owned that type of car. Her demeanor quickly changed, and she told detectives that she had been lying to them and needed to get something off her chest. Scott's fiancée, Karen, told detectives that her call to police had been a lie. She now admitted that she was aware of Scott's vicious attack before she had even picked up the phone.
She knew that Scott was already either dead or severely injured in the apartment because she had been notified by an acquaintance of Scott's that this had occurred.
The acquaintance was Scott's best friend, Dino.
They had been friends for a very long time. Scott trusted him with a lot of things.
Karen said she didn't ask questions and just went along with what Dino told her to do because she was scared. Detectives learned that Dino had a criminal history and a financial motive for wanting Scott dead.
Scott liked to deal in cash transactions, and he was always concerned about his assets perhaps being stolen or taken from him. So he kept a lot of high-value items in Dino's name. He had a Cadillac that was in Dino's name, as well as a Harley-Davidson motorcycle.
Within hours of Scott's murder, it appeared that he was already trying to cash in.
Right after the murder occurred, Dino quickly came and took possession of those vehicles. So it kind of gave a possible motive with Dino taking those items that were of value.
Detectives went to speak with him.
He wasn't very cooperative with the police when they spoke with him. He gave kind of a story that didn't make sense to them. And then he also refused initially to give DNA.
Investigators made it clear that he was the prime suspect in Scott's murder. He reluctantly agreed to provide a swab of his DNA.
It came back that he was not the suspect.
Still, detectives knew from Scott's fiancée that Dino had information about the murder beyond what he was saying. Investigators kept pushing until Dino finally cracked under pressure.
Dino told us that on the night of the murder, he received a call from two acquaintances of his that were also acquaintances of Scott's. Their names were John and Kelly.
Dino said he didn't know all the details, but he did know that they went inside Scott's apartment and discovered him dead.
They called Dino and explained to him what they had found, and they started to come up with a plan on how to get law enforcement involved, and they decided that the best way to do that would be to have Karen, his fiancée, call for a welfare check.
Dino told police the couple owned a Volkswagen Beetle. They were the ones the neighbor had seen that morning. Detectives brought John and Kelly in for questioning. They both admitted they had been in Scott's apartment, but denied killing him.
They had arranged to meet with him and became worried when they knocked on the door and Scott didn't answer the door.
Both said they heard noises from inside, that they tried to open the door, but it was locked.
Kelly had a key to Scott's apartment. She had babysat for him before, so she let herself in and walked up the stairs to the living room and found Scott dead on the floor.
Kelly said she screamed when she saw Scott, and then John quickly ran upstairs to see what was wrong. The couple said they then heard noises coming from Scott's bedroom, and they were worried the killer was still inside the apartment. The two ran out, locking the door behind them, and called Dino as they drove away. Why didn't they call the police?
They both told us that they had had a lot of dealings with the police in the past. They had been arrested several times. They didn't necessarily trust the police, and they didn't want to get involved in whatever had happened to Scott because they also feared that whoever had committed the crime might come after them next.
Neither had any injuries on them, and they both agreed to give their DNA.
They voluntarily provided us with DNA samples, and we were able to eliminate them as suspects as well.
The investigation was back at square one. Detectives continued to interview those closest to Scott. His friend Chuck told police that Scott was known to have affairs with women already in relationships. One man named Jeff had even found out and came after him.
I know that like a year ago, he beat up Scotty and was kicking him, and Scotty was crawling up to the driveway to get away from him.
Chuck also gave police another name.
He had an old girlfriend, kind of a friend of his named Adira. He thought that it could be Adira's new boyfriend.
It might be have the capabilities or propensity to do something that stupid.
Police followed up, but it led nowhere. Jeff was in jail at the time of Scott's murder, and Adira told police she was Scott's babysitter, not his lover, so her boyfriend would have no reason to be jealous.
After we, kind of explored every lead that we could, and still with no hit from the database, we had to consider the case to be a cold case.
For more than 10 years, the case sat dormant until Detective Ryan Grimion heard about new DNA testing through genealogy. He sent the unknown DNA off to a private lab.
Through the genealogy, there was a target that was identified by the name of Zachary Bunny.
It was a name that wasn't in the case file. As the detective dug deeper, he discovered that Scott's friend Chuck had been right all along. Zachary Bunny was Adiro's boyfriend.
Adira and Bunny were dating at the time, and that would be a connection, obviously, for Bunny to possibly have a key.
Bunny left town for Oregon shortly after Scott's murder. Detectives tracked him down, but he refused to tell them anything.
You want to answer any questions I have?
No.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Is there any way to contact my mom?
Investigators had a warrant for Bunny's DNA, and it confirmed what they already knew. Bunny was the one who killed Scott Martinez. He was arrested and charged with murder.
I just sobbed. Just sobbed my eyes out.
After Zachary Bunny's arrest, Detective Grimion took pictures of him and noticed something obvious about his hands.
There's a lot of scarring on the fingers, and I believe that even one of his pinkies was moderately disfigured. It was bent permanently, and it looked to me like it matched what you might anticipate as someone who did have this violent confrontation with this sword, was injured, and then never received treatment for it.
With Bunny behind bars, the detective called Angela Panic to inform her that her father's killer had finally been caught.
He was like, I just arrested the man who killed your dad. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, it's over, Angie. He's been captured. I'm bringing him home to San Diego. And I just sobbed. Just sobbed my eyes out like it had been 13 years.
Zachary Bunny ultimately accepted a deal and pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, receiving a sentence of 12 years in prison. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. The case of Scott Martinez serves as a stark reminder of how volatile and dangerous a home invasion can become. If you ever fear for your safety due to a potential break-in, it is crucial to take proactive measures to protect yourself and your loved ones. Never provide house keys or access to anyone outside of your immediate household. Instead, personally let babysitters or other visitors into your home. If your alarm system can automatically alert the police, activate it. You can also call 911 from your cell phone by opening a new text message and typing 911 into the send line. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Expose, please join us next time and stay safe.